Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the July 8th meeting of the Accessibility Advisory Commission. I am Alexis Henry, the chair, and I will start by taking attendance. And it's 6:32 according to my clock, Christy. So, Roger Trahan,
Here.
Catherine Dupuis,
Here.
Christy Proctor,
Here.
Paul Letourneau,
Here.
and Alexis Henry here. Okay, I'm going to open up the agenda, share the agenda. I've got it open on my screen. Okay. So just to go through in terms of announcements, I heard from the rec department that they did submit a grant to the municipal ADA improvement grants program through Mass Office on Disability. And their proposal, they requested funding to replace the dock at Silver Lake Beach, to procure an ADA accessible swimming dock and also an ADA accessible kayak launch. They did not request a letter from us, so I was happy to hear from Adam, and hopefully they'll get it. I think actually it's in the email. I think it was around 160,000, but don't quote me on that. I can check my email to see if but that went in. Also, July is Disability Pride Month, and the 26th is the 35th anniversary of the Americans with Disabilities Act. I did a little, did you know, blurb for our webpage on the town website. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to take a look at it, but
Disability Pride Month?
Both Disability Pride Month and the 35th anniversary.
I
of the
saw
ADA.
both. I was on the webpage today.
Hmm?
Look. I was on the webpage, our AAC webpage today. Looks great.
Yeah.
It really jumps out at you.
Yeah, and Amber and Amy are so responsive. They do it really quickly. So, so that is nice to have. And Aaron apparently has resigned from the commission. I did not hear from him directly, but Roger, you told me you heard it, right?
Well, what happened is, like, right before, maybe the late afternoon before the select board meeting, it was 2 meetings ago, I saw that his letter of resignation was in the select board meeting packet, and so you weren't included, nor any of us, but the select board had been included as the appointing authority. So, and then so I connected with you. So, so his name and the term expiration has since been deleted from the web page. However, in the town report, it shows that his term was set to expire June 30th of 27. That coincides with yours, Christy. You two were reappointed at the same time. So it's almost another 2 years to go. So.
And we've talked about this before, but trying to recruit a new member.
So
let me. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay, go ahead, Paul.
So we're a member short?
Yes.
Okay.
So yes. I guess formally, the town website, deep in the bowels of the website, going to many different pages, is the web page that talks about openings and vacancies and expressing interest. I'm wondering if we couldn't somehow request two things. Part A is a sort of hyperlink from our web page to that point regarding, please see the opening.
Mm-hmm.
And then the other piece would be whether by consensus, everyone would be okay with one of us perhaps in an informal basis, simply calling attention to it on like the All Things Grafton or, Grafton Rise or something saying, oh, by the way, there's an opening for Accessibility Advisory Commission for the remainder of a term ending 6/30 of 27. Oh, and by the way, here's a link to the most recent town, the town report or whatever,
Yeah,
our report, just so people can get a flavor of what we do.
Yeah. I think I would have no objection to us using the All Things Grafton
Would anyone
Facebook
else? I mean,
page.
do you want me to
Seems
do you want me to
reasonable
do it or?
do. I can send to Amy and Amber, sort of a do you know,
Right.
kind of, for our banner, just to
Oh, right.
add that. So I'm happy to do that.
And what about the Facebook piece?
Anybody else have any objection to it? Well, let's go for it.
All right, do it just, I mean, I can do that this evening.
Do you want to do that, Roger? That would be great.
Sure.
Okay. All right.
So I will, the two sites I'm going to recommend, aside from me individually on my own Facebook, are All Things Grafton and Grafton Rise.
mhm.
I'm going to avoid the Grafton group. I think they're sort of divisive in the wrong direction. If I could point the finger at a Facebook group that I'm part of, just because I want to know everything that's going on in town, would anyone have any objection for me leaving that particular, just focusing on All Things Grafton and Grafton Rise?
Yeah, I've never seen the other group page, so that's fine.
Me neither.
with me. Those two, I
I'll-
think,
I'll-
are generally pretty.
Yeah, that they maintain proper decorum. That's
Yeah.
just in my opinion. If anyone from the Grafton group folks wants to point the finger at me back, I'll take the heat on that one. I'm part of that group anyway, so. All right, cool. I'll do that this evening.
Okay, all right.
And then the other thing too is that I guess if while you're at it, Alexis, if you said you'll email Amber,
Yes.
could you have her extract and put the 2024 report of our commission? Right now, the most recent one is 2023 on our webpage.
Oh, really?
Yeah, on the
All right,
on the
I'll
on
follow
the
up with
list.
her.
Yeah, and that way, folks won't have to be digging through the actual town report. If I
Oh, yeah, no.
direct people to our most recent report, they can just have just our report instead of digging through the whole document.
Yeah. Okay, sure. No, I'm happy to reach out to her.
Right. All right. Thank you.
Okay, just make a note to myself. Other than that, except for the email from Adam, actually the only other thing was the thing that came sometime today, Roger, about the certificate of insurance for the
Oh, yeah, that was actually going to be part of National Night Out
yeah,
under
yeah,
new
that's
business.
what I figured. We just
Right.
pushed
Oh,
that
yeah,
down.
that's right, because it was technically correspondence. Yeah.
Exactly. All right, meeting minutes. Christy, I had the minutes, but it's a PDF. Do you want me to stop sharing? And Christy, you can
I can share them.
you can share.
Madam
Are you able
Chair,
to share? Do I need to make you? Are you able to share?
See. Sharing is not turned on, so I just sent you a request.
I'm allowing it right now.
You can say hi to
Look
Catherine.
at that.
Hi,
Who is that?
Hi, Kitty. What's your cat's name?
This one is Dolph.
Oh, you got more than one.
Yeah, this is the chubby one who doesn't know how to chase mice. Okay, let's see if it works.
Are
Now,
you good now?
here we go. Okay, so these are the 6, 10, 25 meeting minutes.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Madam Chair, I move that
Yes.
I move that we approve the draft minutes of the June 10th, 2025 meeting.
Do I have a second?
I second that.
Okay, great. Any discussion?
I have just a couple of typographical things. So under new business, there's a formatting issue where it continued to number 5. And so new
Probably
biz,
later.
I mean, it continued to number 1 again. It's actually
Oh, that's
old
weird.
bit, old business is number 4. That should be number 5. And thus, instead of 1F, new business is 5, and then A is municipal ADA improvement grants. And then there's 2 other ones. Next one, planning for big truck day should be B. Oh, okay, it filled it in automatically.
Yeah,
Good,
All right, and then C is other new business items. Okay.
great.
So okay, an actual substantive change. It's a little one. Under 5B, Roger Trahan will book the tennis course for South Coast Tennis Club. It's South Coast Wheelchair Tennis Foundation.
thank you.
And after that, it should say for National Night Out, because that was a combination of Big Truck Day and National Night Out, that agenda
Mhm.
item. So if you could see, yeah, so for South Coast Wheelchair, South Coast is 2 words, South Coast Wheelchair Tennis Foundation for National Night Out. And then South Coast is 2 words. Yep. Thank you so much. And then lastly, under 5A new business, that last sentence, the school system is requesting funding for FY26 for these projects. It was unclear whether that was going to be moving forward after my recommendation on the scope of the project to the superintendent. So maybe the school system may request funding for FY26 for these projects. It wasn't going to be a definite. I mean, I passed judgment on the likelihood of that grant being, approved.
Okay,
All right, and that's it.
Great. Thank you. So we have a motion to approve the minutes. Without further discussion, all in favor? Roger Trahan,
Aye.
Catherine Dupuy,
Aye.
Christy Proctor,
aye.
Paul Letourneau,
Aye.
Alexis Henry, aye. Okay, the minutes are approved. All right, let me go back to the agenda. Okay, old business. Tracy's not here, and these are things, I'm just gonna follow. I haven't had a chance yet, sorry, we were away, to follow up with Tracy just about, following up with Mary at the Grafton Public Library for a potential walkthrough. I think those that, she did have a visit with Mary, and I think we talked about it at the last meeting, that the issue that they focused on was the issue related to the door. But I think we think there's sort of perhaps a broader, an opportunity for just a broader kind of walk through the library and take a look at things, see if there's any things that are of concern. I'm going to jump to the other things that have to do with Tracy just because she's not here. These are two things that I've kept on the agenda. Two things. Our request for accommodation form that's on our site is really only geared for people who are current employees or are applying for a job. There's nothing in that form that is appropriate for someone who's asking the town for an accommodation unrelated to employment, but there could for sure be other reasons why people might be asking the town for an accommodation. So I think that form needs just another section, you know, for someone who's requesting an accommodation that's unrelated to employment with the town. It's really just for current employees or applicants. So I'll just, if everybody's okay, I'll just sort of separately reach out to Tracy and, you know, maybe we can put it on our agenda for next time, take a look at the form again and just figure out the right kind of wording. It just needs another section for people to fill something out. And the ADA grievance procedure, I will tell you, when I Googled that, the form pops up or the document pops up. It still has Bob Berger's name on it, but it's not linked to our webpage. It's like I can Google it and the PDF will pop up just from Googling it, but I can't find where it's located on the town website. It's like, I'm like, where is this coming from? And it does not appear to be linked to our page. We have information about ADA on our page, but not the actual grievance procedure. So those are two things. I was looking at it, you know, before the meeting and thinking these probably need to be updated because Bob Berger's not here anymore. And just would like to see that link right from our page.
Good
So
idea.
that, yeah. And, you know, they've been hanging on the agenda for a while, but I'll just reach out to Tracy directly if everybody's okay with that.
Cool.
Christy,
Mhm.
I
Yeah.
do not know if there's anything else we need to discuss related to the digital accessibility standards.
I haven't heard anything. I know that all the schools are talking about trying to get something done all together. So since my ear's
Yeah.
not to the ground on the select board or municipal side of things, I'm not sure if they're talking about it from their lens or perspective.
Yeah. Okay. And since Tracy's not here, we don't really have any other update. You know,
Yeah.
there's work to do. And we know the town has work to do, but I'm not sure, you know, what there is for us to do further about this. You know, so hopefully next time Tracy's able to make the meeting, and we can just keep it on the agenda just to circle back to her. If there's any other old business that I didn't think of and include on the agenda. Everybody okay to move on?
Yes,
Yep.
Okay, new business, National Night Out, August 5th.
Okay. I have a couple of updates.
Okay,
Okay.
great.
I'm still waiting Mike Kennedy's reply regarding the his vehicle.
Oh, okay.
This you know, he was gracious enough on Big Truck Day last year to bring it, and he wasn't available this year. So you know, I've reached out a couple of times, and I'm not sure if he's away or whatnot, but I'm going to
Mhm.
continue you know, trying to you know, confirm one way or the other for him. South Coast Wheelchair Tennis Foundation, Thomas Dodd, they are a go.
Okay.
So it would be Tom, two other players, and I guess this one of their volunteers is a Grafton resident. I don't know who that is. They would be bringing banners to put on the lower tennis court, you know, fencing. And I did get I'm ahead of myself. one of the things that Tom had mentioned, and I think it was $50 or $55 per person. Typically, they ask for a travel stipend
Mhm.
for those 2 or 3 people that come driving. I don't think Tom would ask for one for himself, but I told him that why shouldn't he be included in that? But I would think and hope that that would be a permissible expense under our little accessible parking kitty of $700, that would be related to accessibility. Basically, it's an awareness event or exhibition, to bring out awareness of things that are disability related.
Yeah.
Um,
How do we
and
access that money? I've no
I-
one's ever told,
Is
I
it
mean,
the-
I've heard
well,
about it
is
in
it
the
here's the
community,
thing.
but
And
Is-
so I told him, I was thinking out loud to Tom, if it was a few days ago, I said, Tom, I don't know who that would be invoiced to, whether it would be the town care of us care of the town or whatnot. What happens is under the general law, we the money is in our under our oversight, but the authorization to spend it, we have to recommend to the select board to approve that that expenditure. That's the way it runs. So it would be in one of their regular meetings, however invoiced, and whether they have to have a tax ID number on that or whatever. I could ask William how these things, what is the form or format for such an invoice?
they don't have to be like a vendor in our system, do they? Hopefully.
No, I don't think so. Um, but that's small money,
Mhm.
and then the other thing is that Mary Laurie, our town accountant, she went through our town insurance agent, and that we got a insurance certificate. It's like 1 million per incident, 3 million aggregate. It basically covers South Coast Wheelchair
Yeah.
from 7/1/25 to 7/1/26. It's the whole fiscal year. And so but what I need to do is send that to the school department, because the person that is the one who authorizes the approval of the courts is not back until the 14th of July. But I may be ahead of myself, because last year at this time, I created a username and password because the website says that facilities need to be booked through this online process. So I'm going to have to dig through my meeting packets because I have a folder or a form somewhere in this monstrosity of my office where I had a username and password. And I don't want to wait until the 14th until she gets back. So
No, you should
yeah, so this is,
book
I
it
mean,
now.
this is kind of all tentative because there are some camps and everything. However, I think the camps are during the day, whereas this is like 5 to 8 o'clock.
Mhm.
So I'll give everyone an update on how definite that is. But here's the kicker. The kicker and the most important thing is that I told Tom that I would be the point of contact up until the 30th of July. I'll be out of town. All right. Just so happens that I'm going to be on vacation and will not be attending National Light Out. And so I need someone,
Okay.
if this goes forward and it's not a rain out and everything is, booked and it happens, I need someone, a volunteer from us, to be the point person to physically, I guess, stay there at that location just to make sure this thing goes off, since we're really the ones hosting it. Um, or maybe, unless we want to really be creative about this and consider this almost, I mean, with their permission, an extension of rec and maybe seek out someone from rec to maybe help out.
I mean, I think it would be nice to have more than one person
Right,
there that, you know, I mean, you
right.
said there's banners. Do we hang them on the fencing?
They, I guess, I guess they would, yeah, well, what's interesting about this whole setup is that, all right, so the bottom set of courts, the way the topography is, it's actually the upper entrance that's the accessible entrance, because the bottom
Yeah.
entrance actually has stairs. However, pretty darn sure that the fencing is not accessible. In other words, so one of those folks that's in a wheelchair would not be, it would need someone that can actually reach that area to put it on the fence.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not sure. I didn't clarify with Tom whether he thought that the whole clearing had a clearance and an accessible clearance for him to simply do that. And if you look at how the setup is, that's basically impossible. There's bushes and shrubs that are
Right,
kind of right in front of it. And so
right.
it needs someone on foot to reach up higher and
Mhm.
put those on. So it's gonna need you know, a couple of people just watching over. My thought process was that because the upper court is the accessible one, that they would play in the court that's closest to the back of the GCTV building so that people could then use the top court of the bottom set of courts to be spectators. Because
Okay.
if you didn't do that, people entering would be in the field of play.
Right.
They'd be in
So
the field of play.
I have a couple of questions. When they come, how long would we expect them to play? Like for the
Uh,
whole
no,
3
maybe
hours?
five
What's
thirty,
their,
no, 5:30 to 7:30.
okay,
Um, 2 hours. I think that it would include, and we'd have to advertise this once it's definitive, um, that they're bringing extra chairs for folks who, um, don't use wheelchairs to know what it feels like to actually participate in one of these, um, modified tennis wheelchairs. And then also get people involved in what's called one up, one down. And the wheelchair tennis is the only difference is that in singles, they play the doubles perimeter. So they have a bigger footprint.
mm-hmm,
And then they are allowed 2 bounces after it goes over the net versus just 1. That's the only difference. One up, one down means if I'm on foot versus in one of their wheelchairs, I have to volley it back on after the first bounce, whereas they're still allowed the second bounce.
okay,
And so, um, and it was funny. I was talking to Tom way back last year. He says, "Don't think it's so easy." He goes, "Just because you think you're on foot, you know." I don't know if
yeah,
anyone's ever gone on YouTube and typed in wheelchair tennis. It's some pretty intense athleticism. Um, and when we think about mobility, I think I came in with preconceived notions about wow, wheelchair tennis, that mustn't be a very intense, quick type of sport. And it's at yeah, it is. It really is. Go on YouTube and type in wheelchair tennis, and you'll see just how competitive it is. And
okay.
so
So Roger, can you say again? So they are bringing,
they're bringing everything. They're
they're
bringing the
bringing everything. Are they bringing other players who will play with them?
they're
Like
bringing 2 other
everyone that
players.
they're
Yep.
bringing a wheelchair user? I know you said
Yes,
this, but
they're
it's
they're
sort of,
bringing it. All right, Tom's wheelchair, and he's bringing 2 other players who are in wheelchairs.
okay.
And then the volunteer from Grafton, I'm not sure whether he or she is in a wheelchair. But including Tom, there are 3 players, and so
Okay.
they'll alternate back and forth. Not sure if there's any additional players, but Tom represented that there'd be 3 of the Tennis Foundation athletes.
Okay, and so there's an opportunity for people coming to National Night Out, just people in the community to try their hand at playing this one up, one down. Is that what you're
Or,
saying?
or they'll have extra wheelchairs. And so
Or
they
they'll
can
have extra
actually, they'll
wheelchairs?
actually have someone who doesn't, normally use a wheelchair, get in one to get the feel of what that is, athletic experience is like.
And there'll be rackets
Yep,
and
they'll have all, yep,
they'll have all the equipment. Okay.
they will have all the equipment. And the only thing is that I don't know if they'll have a table. Like it's possible that we could ask for a table for them and put it up there if they have like brochures or educational
Mhm.
materials or things like of that nature. I'll iron that out.
Okay. Do we have to request a table from
I think we do. Yeah.
who? I'm sorry. Is this the police department or the,
No,
Rec
it's the police,
department.
it's the police department.
okay.
I mean, then technically National Night Out is a public safety block party, but
Right,
it's
right,
really
right.
been
That's,
it's been extended to everything. As an aside, it'll be interesting to see now that the Grafton Job Corps has been defunded, that they served all the food, cooked and served all the food at that event.
And
Would
I
be
don't recall there being food. There was food there?
Oh yeah, there's food like everywhere in the police station. What was it? The police station area, that back area, um, the garage area of the police station. But there was a lot of other little trucks. Dunkin' Donuts had some smoothies and things like that,
Mhm.
and they had
Oh, yes.
waters and drinks and
Yeah.
things. But yeah, so I'll request a table for them.
okay.
But so I mean, do you, would I be overstepping if I reached out to rec department and see if there's anyone from the rec commission who would want to maybe assist us and see if there's one person who or two people who might be willing to assist in this?
I don't think so. Who here tonight is going to be there?
I'm
Is
also
anybody-
gonna be out of town, so
I
Yeah,
won't be there.
I'm available. I was expecting to be there. Okay. So yeah, I think that would be nice. Actually, Roger.
All right,
if
I'll
you
reach
could
out.
do
I'll
that.
reach out
Reach
to
out
them.
to Adam or what's the name of the other guy? And the young girl. Okay. Yes,
Okay.
like that idea.
All right. Anything else on that?
So Roger, if we're requesting a table for their display materials, do we want it closer to the courts, or do we want it, where do you envision putting it?
Well, okay, I had requested both court, in other words, not both sets of courts. There's 4 courts in 2 areas. So I requested the lower set of courts.
Mm-hmm.
And so the when you walk in, and there's 2 entrances to each of the sets of courts. So the upper entrance of the lower court, that court right there would be for spectators. That wouldn't be the playing area. We could put a table there. In other words, once they enter that area, and then from there, they would watch the players in that other court. And so rather than, I mean, I don't know if we have a table, maybe we could consolidate some of the materials onto our table so that they have materials on 2 different tables, one in the main area for people that don't, don't get up there, or we could have a sign on our table directing people to that and saying, oh, by the way, there's a wheelchair tennis exhibition just up the walkway.
Mm-hmm.
But so 2 tables, one for the main area and one for the tennis within the top tennis court of the lower 2.
Okay. So you'll request, is it online? How do we do the request for the tables?
I'm not sure. I'll call Mary Ann DeVries, who's the executive assistant to the chief.
Okay.
And the other thing I'm going to do is call Bob DeTome at GCTV to ask for, even though that building's restrooms are not public restrooms that evening, last year Bob was amenable and very gracious to offer those up for the athletes, so that we wouldn't have to have physical access to the school, which is a whole nother.
Bit of a hike to get from the
It's
tennis
not,
courts to
and it's not only a hike, it's that we'd have to book that room and have a custodian on available to unlock it and be in the building at the time. And it's just, yeah, that's
a lot.
unnecessary. It is. And so I'll reach out to Bob and ask for the, just to point out that for the athletes to have access. He was gracious enough to offer that up last year. So
That'd be great.
yeah.
Roger, what is Tom's last name? I'm sorry.
Dodd, D-O-D-D.
You can, do an introductory email. I'll be the point of contact.
Okay, great.
That's fine, but for sure, reach out to Rec and, just loop me in so that I know if.
All right, then what I'll do is, yeah, I'll ask that, as we reply to all, what I'm going to do is, he initially thought that he had to provide an insurance certificate because I led him on to thinking that was the case, until I jogged my own memory and recall that it was his organization was put under the town's insurance certificate. So
Right.
I left him a voicemail message this afternoon to that effect. And so I will email that to him this evening or
Okay.
tomorrow morning, and I'll loop you in and I'll do that intro within that communication.
Okay. All right. That sounds good.
Thank you so much.
Yep. Anything else on this? Christy, are we having the pops?
Haven't heard anything yet.
Okay. All right. If you do, you can just, because it's it's before our next meeting, so just send around. We did talk about having some materials on our table, maybe even just a printout of the information that we have on our webpage.
And I would, yeah, in other words, I could do some printouts of our 2024 town report, just to give
The
people
whole
an
town
idea of what
report
we
or
do.
just our report?
No, our report is like 3 or 4 pages. No,
Yeah.
yeah,
I don't think
the entire
I don't think people want to
320
take
page.
away homework.
No. But here's the thing: is that as much as we mean well, people don't read that stuff. They
No.
want their keychains in their culotta. You know what I mean? And so, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what information we could put out there. A QR code, maybe.
Yeah. Could we have a little poster that's got a QR code?
Yeah.
Christy, do you know how to make one of those? I have no idea how to make one. And that would just send them, so we could do learn about the Accessibility Advisory Commission. Here's our
I can make that.
great.
Oh, Catherine, you rock. Because I'm
That was
not.
Christy.
That's
Oh,
not
that was
me.
Christy. Hey, I had my head down. I'm writing, and you sounded like Catherine. Catherine, you're on the hook
I
too.
don't know it.
No, that
I
was
mean, I could
Christy.
probably make
sorry.
one just as easily, but
All right, my hearing is going. I had my head down. I thought that was you, Catherine. All right,
Great.
thank you, Christy. You rock.
Do we make them big? I mean, I don't mind I could get a piece of poster board. We have a little display.
Well, I have a laminating machine as well, and we could always tape it, or whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Because things kind of blow away, and then they get
Yeah.
all damaged. And I have a nice little laminating machine.
Nice.
So
I have a question.
Yes, Paul.
This is to Roger.
Yeah.
Is the Job Corps no longer in business? I mean, are they
they've been defunded, so I don't know how long they took, whether they shuttered their doors right away.
Oh, wow.
It
I
was part,
think
it was
they-
Our
part of
federal
the,
government.
They said
That's
they were, then they
tragic.
said
That's
they weren't,
tragic.
then it's hard to say.
so is it still open or?
I have no idea. I've
I
heard of a few
assumed
in a few
no,
other
but
places not being open, but I don't necessarily know if the Grafton one is still open or not, so.
Yeah.
Wow.
s-
Well, there's
So,
an article in the Community Advocate that says they're trying to figure it out.
all
But
right,
they did order to close the job corps nationwide, so
as of 7/1 or 8/1 or some other date.
well, they're
Federal
fa-
fiscal year
they're
is
phasing-
October 1.
yeah, they're phasing it.
Okay,
But the Grafton, Chicopee, and Ayer are expected to close.
okay,
They operated last year at $140 million deficit. And if
Wow.
they had continued this year, it would have gone up to $213 million deficit. So it's too bad, that it can't figure out a way to be operable and profitable. But
How
it
how
doesn't,
does it even break even?
it
because people
doesn't.
don't pay to go there. I mean,
People
it's,
pay to go there?
no,
They
people
don't.
don't pay to go there. They
Right,
don't.
that's why I'm asking. I didn't realize that it was expected to.
Right, so deficit, what a misnomer.
I know.
Is that just the straight cost? Does it generate revenue in any way?
I don't know.
No, they do a lot for free to get the
Yeah.
experience. But I'm just seeing yeah, it doesn't.
Is
seem
that
to-
nationwide or just our?
No, it's nationwide.
It's nothing.
So
Yeah.
this is from a June 23rd article in the Advocate. So we'll see what ends up happening over there. But yeah, they won't be at the they won't be at the event. I'm
They
sure.
won't be serving it's
Yeah.
not even talk about it. Okay. If there's nothing else related to National Night Owl, Roger, you asked
S-
for
Yes,
this item
Ye-
to be put on the agenda.
yes, 71 Main Street. So Paul, when we were leaving the municipal center the other day for your re-swearing in, we ran into Ray Mead,
Yeah.
and he had spoken of a recent some sort of inspection or something of the former South Grafton Library, which now houses the Grafton Historical Society.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
That's at the corner of Orchard Street and in South Grafton. And so he had mentioned accessibility issues. And I didn't know exactly what inspection he was referring to. I spoke with William Blake today about, just reminding him that, in our 2019 ADA self-eval transition plan, that building was listed on pages 71 to 73 as having certain deficiencies that were listed, and their approximate costs as of that time and what the priority was. Both the front and the back entrance have sets of stairs, so there is no accessible entrance. So the rest of the building, it's a moot point right now, unless there were to be, at least for starters, an accessible entrance, which slope would probably be the back, which then would become the main entrance, and the front would be sort of off limits as a main entrance, similar to what we see with the new library, whereas the back is now the main entrance, and the front, one can actually go in there and the building's unlocked, but it's not considered the main entrance. So right now, William I emailed him and he emailed me back, pretty sure that what the inspection really was the Facilities Assessment Committee, of which Ray is a member of. And they were charged back in August of 24 with a certain tasks of assessing the condition of each municipal building. I don't think it includes school, but non-school municipal buildings, and coming up with a recommendation of these are all people that are familiar with construction and building trades and things like that, that to inspect every single municipal building and come up with a checklist of what's needed to bring things back up to code or back up to where it should be. And so they would report their findings back to the select board at some point. So, so
So is this, can I ask Roger?
Yeah.
Is this a town-owned building?
it's a
but
town-owned
they
building.
Lease it to the Historical Society? They just let the Historical Society
They
use
probably
it?
maybe lease it for $1. I don't know,
Yeah,
but
yeah. The
it's
Historical
probably
Society, I
for
assume, doesn't have much
right. And
operating
so
budget.
you're right. And so it's a town-owned building. Historical Society is a nonprofit. It's a 501(c) or C3 or what, I always get that backwards. And so as a nonprofit, yeah, they have very few funds and they're open very few hours of the week because it's staffed by volunteers.
Right.
And they also open themselves up for Grafton celebrates the holidays. So ironically,
Yeah.
it's actually probably the least accessible municipal building in
Mhm.
town, but it's not used for municipal purposes.
So
So
who would be responsible to make it accessible?
I mean, the town of Grafton owns it, and so it's
Mhm.
under the purview of the town administrator's office and select board. It's not a school building. So we may be ahead of ourselves to tackle this as an individual priority.
Uh-huh.
But it's something that Ray had mentioned needs to be looked at. And I'm not sure, I'll reach out to him and ask whether the committee is using the ADA self-eval from 2019 as a companion document to their assessments. Because that's a those are building assessments in and of themselves, but through an ADA and AAB lens. Not like, oh, there's a broken radiator. If it's not accessibility related, that wouldn't have been included in the ADA self-eval in 2019. But so I'll just make sure that that committee is at least familiarizing themselves with that ADA document as they're doing their facilities assessment. But I was glad that he had mentioned it when we ran into him, because even though they're not looking at these buildings just through an ADA, AAB standpoint, it was clear to them, it was clear to him that just from the outset, the entrances and such
Mhm.
were neither front nor back were accessible. So
And I seem to remember when we first looked at the eval, when we first looked into it, we looked at that building, we were just like, I don't know. I remember we were discussing it and we're just like, this just
right.
doesn't seem feasible at the moment. So I
No,
don't know if we
right.
even included it in our priorities document. We're like, this is the lowest priority because it would take a
Yeah.
ton of work.
It would. And what's
Exactly.
interesting too is that, and I'll thank Skip Curry for this, Roger Skip Curry, I left him a message and he was good at texting me. I had asked him there's no parking right there adjacent to the building for accessible spaces for parking.
Mhm.
It's actually fenced in entirely. But then there's a sand lot across the street that the neighbors all seem to park in. But I guess he had mentioned that that's also town-owned land. It's a lot that's bordered by Orchard Street and Sampson Street, and then it abuts neighborhood house lots. And so I guess town land acquired in 1935, same day as a historic society building. So I guess they were, he's a Grafton history guru, Skip is. And so my concern was about what would be the value of addressing the ADA stuff if there was literally zero parking, but at least there is a parking lot across the street. However, ideally, the accessible spaces really should be adjacent to the walkways that would lead
Yeah.
right to the building. Not that someone would have to cross the street you know, from an accessible parking spot across the street to get to there. It seems like there might be one or two spaces on the backside where you could squeeze something in right near the lot line, but that's a discussion for a different day. I guess it may be premature until the Facilities Assessment Committee comes up with their recommendations to address these things, because why start work if other work may be done on top of that, you know?
Right.
Right, and it may not be, I'm guessing it's not the number one priority.
Right.
Might
And
be
it may not
might
be
be better to
fundable.
find the Historical Society another
I know,
spot
right?
that's
No, can it,
accessible.
well, they got boot, they got
I
got
know,
booted.
I know where they got booted out
I
of.
know. And so honestly, yeah, right now from an accessibility standpoint, they're in a lousy location. They are a great organization with a great collection and really
Right.
awesome volunteers and board members. But that location
Very
is just,
inaccessible. They
it's
should be in
just,
the center of town.
they should be in
Would the
they should be
library
in,
give them a little space?
I wish, right? I wish we could get that JCSI building under our wing and make that accessible, but maybe
Yeah.
Powerball may do that. And I donate that, but so I think though that it's just a reminder that I think all of us should probably peruse the ADA self-eval and
Mhm.
just be familiar with these matters, because I think that just because the Facilities Assessment Committee hasn't made their recommendations yet, doesn't mean that we might not be able to come up with some ideas regarding funding for at least the beginning part of it, which would be a ramp to make what is the back entrance the main entrance. And then work inward from there. However, the town, I mean, it's up to the town whether they even want to hold on to that building, but I don't know. It seems like it would be a big undertaking for such a small space that is not actually used for municipal purposes, but is used for municipal benefit, just from the town history standpoint.
Right.
Yeah.
It's not like a coffee shop is in there and we could just want to dispose of it by selling the joint. I think that
Right.
I wouldn't, I mean, from a non-committee standpoint, my own personal viewpoint is I would hate to see the Historic Society displaced once again. They're already settled in that space.
Yeah. But from both a cost perspective and a accessibility, I mean, it's one thing to make the building accessible, but it may be in a location that people, don't, they might get more traffic if they were in a better location.
Yeah.
Right.
Um,
And from an
And-
aid and from an MOD standpoint, from their grant application,
Mm.
they look at, from a priority of how they award these grants, they look at how many people benefit from
right.
this building.
Exactly.
And we're talking about a nonprofit that's open 2 to 4 p.m. on Sundays or by appointment,
Yeah.
or Grafton celebrates the holidays. And so I would be hard pressed to think it would have a good shot at being awarded one of those MOD grants,
Probably not.
or whether it would be high on the priority of the town's capital improvement plan.
Right.
But anyway, but at least we're talking about it. And I think it's a reminder for all of us and me, I can only speak to myself, to really go back and look at that document and see, see what needs to be done in town as we make our recommendations as a committee.
Okay.
And then also I'll look into, how far along they are. And, whether it's going to be another year before or 6 months, or whether they're ready for their reports. I don't know how long they've been working,
Mm-hmm.
but anyway, so that's all she wrote.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Roger, for bringing that to our attention. Any other new business items?
No,
Or
I do
anyone?
have a probative question for the group. Today on my computer, I received a message. It said Microsoft had supposedly deactivated my computer and disallowed my access to it.
That sounds
So-
like phishing.
Huh? I think it was a scam because they ended
That's how
up
it's a,
needing $740 from me to
oh,
pay.
that's a scam.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, just an opinion. All right, thank you.
Just
Yeah,
delete that. Don't
Del-
answer, don't
delete.
follow a link, just delete it.
Well, they're not
Yeah.
gonna get any money from me, that's for sure.
But you
So-
don't want to follow a link from something like that because it can infect your, just
yeah.
delete
And
it.
I know.
Yeah, one of the things, Paul, that I saw on TV this morning, it's funny you should mention it during this meeting tonight, was about scams. And even in my own job in the insurance industry, my insurance companies are particularly and brokers are being people are trying to hack into their systems.
Yeah,
And the whole phishing scams, PH and phishing, is these scams, they seem legitimate. They're run by smart people. There's a sense of urgency towards something that is likely an important function in your life, your computer access,
yeah,
and they catch you off guard, and they target. No one's off limits, but they also target retirees,
yeah. And old
it-
people.
and old folks. Yeah, I was being polite.
Just want your money.
But
Yeah.
yeah. So to Alexis's point too, and this is to everyone, sometimes it's not even the scam that they're trying to get you to give them the money. It's to click on the link and now they have access to your computer.
Right,
It-
and they
it-
did. They did
it's-
have access.
And so, the question here is, I don't know who you would turn to, but it's possible that they may still have access. And so that's the thing about not even opening these type of emails
Right,
and
right. Well, I
and-
had no choice. They made it impossible for me to log on to my computer.
oh, all right.
And so I unplugged it and left it for a little bit and then went back and they still had that thing.
Do you have antiviral software on this computer?
I did have, I thought. But anyway, so I
Yeah,
do now, supposedly.
yeah. All right.
So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But I'm not spending any money on it.
You're very creative.
Yeah.
They find a
Yes.
lot of different ways.
Oh, yes, they are very creative. Yeah.
Everybody get the text that looks like it's from the RMV that your
Yeah.
fast lane passes.
Yeah.
I've gotten that several times.
Yeah,
unfortunately.
I have too.
I
So
always respond to the group text and say, "Don't click that; it's a scam." Because they always
Yes.
email like 6 people at a time. The text like 6 people at a time. So
So anyway, tomorrow
lot
I'm
of
not
them
going to
out
answer.
there.
They're supposed to call me on my landline, which is interesting, at 10 o'clock tomorrow, and I'm not taking the call.
don't take it.
No, I'm not. And then they'll probably do something on the computer, and I'm going to ignore that as well.
Good, smart move.
Yeah. All right. Just I needed your opinions. That's all.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for seeking out our opinion. It's always
Oh.
good to check in. And
Yeah.
Madam Chair, will you accept the motion to adjourn?
I second.
Okay, thank you for that motion. All in favor? Roger Trahan,
Aye.
Catherine Dupuy,
I
Christy Proctor,
Aye.
Paul Eterno,
Aye.
Alexis Henry, I. It is now 7:30 and we are adjourned.